Aaron from Borough Park.
Yes, sir.
Long-time listener, Bob. Oh, Bob, I gotta go. My wife just came in. I'm sorry, brother.
I don't understand. His wife just came in, so he had to hang up. There's a real mensch for you. There's a real mensch. Got real couillons, this guy. He was afraid she'd get mad because he was making a phone call to a talk show. Aaron of Borough Park. If anybody knows Aaron of Borough Park, tell him he's persona non grata.
I would never would have considered going to war with the United States, no matter what. There's only one man now that I think, this is all my opinion, God, I hope I'm wrong, there's only one man, and that's Gromyko, who was very familiar with the United States and is telling these people, look, again, don't underestimate the United States. And when he goes, and I think he's going to go within the next few months or a year, they'll see to that.
I hope you're right. I look forward to the day that skunk croaks.
Well, yes, I don't like him either, Bob. I don't like him either.
Tony, you're not making any sense. You're sounding like a hysterical old lady. No, better yet, Tony, in all honesty, you're sounding like a cajon who's trying to sound like he's informed.
Yeah,
Tony, the point you miss is that, hey, get off the phone, you windbag. For heaven's sake. I'm so late on things for tonight until, well, I don't know, maybe we'll get on after Yankee baseball tomorrow, somewhere along the line. Anyway, until next time. No, we won't be on. Okay. Until next week, Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. As long as it's the United States Navy and not the Russian Navy, I'm all for it, Brad. Thank you very much. I get a kick out of people like Brad. Calls acting like he's totally ignorant, has no information at all, and then he asks me for some, as he puts it, input. And then I give him the facts of life. That'd be about 5,000, 6,000 permanent jobs. And he comes back with the cockamamie, it's only going to be short duration and just a few hundred jobs. One of the things that I loathe about doing this type of radio is the fact that people like Brad call who are fakes. I don't mind disagreement, believe me. I don't mind a person calling saying, Bob, I know your point of view is A, my point of view is B, and here's why. But when a person pretends that they're just innocent babes in the wood, like Brad just did, I hope you're listening, Brad. I hope you're listening, Brad, because I'm talking about you. I'm telling everybody what a phony you are, what a fake. And I feel good, Brad, because I like to expose fakes. Talk Radio 77 WABC. Bob Grant, hello.
Hello?
Brian.
Yes.
Hello.
My name is Brian from Queens.
Yes, Brian.
Yes, Bob. I just wanted you to use your energy for this really important announcement. It's something that I just found out myself, but I think it's already been known. But I just want to bring it across again. It's about the Procter & Gamble company. Did you hear?
Procter & Gamble Company is a great company. They make a whole host of products. They make dishwashing products. They make products for deodorants. They make soap, of course. And they have nothing to do with Satan. And you little twerps out there, you little sick finks out there.
No.
You little sick finks who are trying to say that they're spreading Satan because of that logo that they have. I wish the guy with the net and the white suits would catch up with you and put you where you belong. Single mothers by choice, a group of 3 women who felt pressured by their biological clocks and became single parents and workaholics. I mean, what kind of weirdos are these? I mean, they want to become mothers, but they don't want husbands. That's what it is. They should be hermaphrodites. But anyway, you'll find out when Helen Goodblatt entertains them in her. Becoming cloudy tonight with a few showers, possibly changing to snow showers north and west of town.
How you doing?
Do you mean that question, or is that just a way to stall for time?
No, I mean it.
Am I doing?
Yeah.
Look, in a word, lousy.
Really?
Yeah. Okay?
Oh, that's good.
I mean, here I am, sitting here, having to talk to you. So what does that tell you? And don't take this personally, John. I have nothing against you personally. Now, what would you like to say?
Oh, I don't know. I just want to talk about this great country.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk about me because you said, how am I doing?
Well, I just wanted to be nice.
In other words, you wanted to waste time. Okay, now that we've wasted the time, what would you like to talk about? Pete Seeger has been named by the House Committee on Un-American Activities in so many groups listed by that committee as subversive. You just run out of paper. And there he was today. Wouldn't you know, he'd be there on the campus of Columbia University while they have their moment in the sun trying to turn the clock back to the 1960s. These short-sighted, narrow-minded ingrates who joined him protesting they know not what. And I guarantee you that they would go wherever they came out of. They'd get back under the rocks they came out of. They'd get back in the holes they slithered out of if the media would not go there with the cameras, the microphones, the reporters, the typewriters. It's absolutely asinine. Somebody's orchestrating these counterproductive anti-South African picnics, orgies, outings, happenings. And I'd like to know for what end. Did you see where Amy Carter got herself arrested? Out in front of the South African embassy? Before you know it, everybody will have been arrested there. Even people who ordinarily can't get arrested. Frank.
Yes. Hello, Bob.
Yes, Frank.
Bob, you were speaking before about, in the opening remarks, about that bunch of pathetic has-beens and never will-be's up at Columbia University that are trying to relive what they must consider the glory years of the 1960s when they protested and barricaded themselves in up over there. And, of course, the maggots in the media now are running out to give these jerks, these ignorants, up there as much press as they can over their disruption of the university and their protest over the involvement with South Africa. You know, Bob, I've been following the disruptions in that country very closely on the news. And I've noticed something, that when the camera pans in on the various rioters that are running rampant over there in their own townships, they all seem to be smiling it and mugging it up for the camera. You know, I don't see any hungry, starving people on the faces of those people in South Africa. If you want to see hungry, starving people in Africa, one only has to look in Ethiopia, where a so-called black majority-ruled government is committing a mass genocide by forcibly removing 1 million people from a rebel-held area, by withholding food supplies, by not allowing trucks to carry food into that area that those people might use to aid the rebels. You know, these pompous, pious, hypocritical frauds that are always protesting about South Africa. When it comes to a Marxist group of thugs like they've got in Ethiopia, they sit on the steps of a church and sing songs. They say, what difference does it make what kind of government they've got? Wait, we only have to help the people. Why should they suffer? Yet when it comes to South Africa, which is America's ally, suddenly they want to tear it down. Have you read about what's been going on in those townships where people have been hacked to death? Babies have been burned to death. My God, could we imagine the slaughter, the brutality that would take over once a group of Marxist-led fanatics would lure these creatures into governing that country, Bob? Yet these phonies like Jimmy Carter's daughter went out and got arrested. Why didn't they arrest her fat slob of an uncle when he was getting money under the table from Gaddafi a few years back?
Ah, good point. Very good. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Bob.
Just Hank Berg supplying the information in this forecast. Tonight, mostly clear and cold, low near 30. In town, 20s in the outlying suburbs. Is this April or is this January? Oof-ah, bafan. Tomorrow, sunshine mixing with some late-day high clouds.
I think this country is very affluent. And a lot of times, a lot of our decisions where, people get all annoyed where, they're letting these cars come in. A lot of these things, I think, might be under the table banners, these pictures. I don't think the total would turn around and
have a United States Congress. We have a free press.
No, we're not saying
What the heck do you think this is? What do you think it is? Out on President Street? On Mulberry Street? What the heck do you think it is, for heaven's sake? What goes on with some of these people here under the table buy-offs?
One question. If Japan wanted to turn around and what they call cause a lot of military, you know this government is a big military economic complex. If Japan really wanted to turn around and cause us trouble, what's it called? We got bases.
Why should they want to cause us trouble, you dummy?
Why not? What's it called? It serves their purposes.
We're their largest market. We're their largest market. What are they going to do? Turn to the Soviet Union?
Yeah, Bill.
I can't take it anymore, Bill. I tried to be patient with you, but you didn't want to have my patience. First you talk about one thing you weren't making any sense. Then you talk about another thing you're not making any sense. So you make it number 3 out of 3. You're not making any sense in any one of these 3 things. Under the table deal. What are they, buying cars in a used car lot?
What's top secret?
Thank you, Bill. I mean, what the heck? What do people think? Reagan and Nakasone had an under-the-table deal. WABC Talk Radio. Hello, Charles.
How you doing, Bob?
How am I doing?
Having fun? Having a lot of fun.
Bob, I'd like to talk to you about the students who are blockading the building at Columbia University.
Yes.
Yes. First of all, they're not preventing anyone from entering the building. There are alternate entrances that people are using.
Why do people have to be inconvenienced by using alternate entrances? Why? Why do they have to use that tunnel? They have no right to do that.
They have to be inconvenienced because the university has $39 million invested in South Africa that the university...
That doesn't give them the right to inconvenience anybody.
Senate vote.
That doesn't give them the right to inconvenience anybody.
Have you ever heard of Henry David Thoreau, Bob?
Don't give me that schmancy stuff. We're not talking about Henry David Thoreau. We're talking about a bunch of jerks who are acting with Pete Seeger to get themselves on television.
You said yourself that it's January weather out there, that those people are freezing.
Yeah, but the cameras are hot.
The cameras aren't out there now.
No.
They're going to stay there all night.
I hope they starve. I hope they starve to death, those creeps. I'd like to run over them with a Sherman tank. With you standing at the head of the brigade, you smug creep.
Oh.
How smug. Get off my phone. Will you hang up, please?
Me?
He's checking with his buddies in the back. Did he hang up?
Nobody here but me.
WC Talk, I can't stand that. They are doing that because the university has $39 million, so that gives them a license to inconvenience other people. That's their objective. What the consequences of their destructive actions are unimportant to them. They don't even take those consequences into consideration. They go the other way. Isn't it curious that people like Jane Fonda, for example, saw fit to disgrace themselves by going to Hanoi and lauding Ho Chi Minh, that mass murderer, and yet not a peep out of her and her kind over the murder of 3 million Cambodians since we left Southeast Asia. Not just the murder of 3 million Cambodians, but the absolute straitjacket that Hanoi has the rest of Southeast Asia in.
What about a few years ago when Mr. Jesse Jackson went to Cuba and hugged Fidel Castro? And I forget what he said. He said something that was right. I actually don't know what he said, but he said something.
I think he said, Generalissimo Castro, which foot should I kiss first?
Probably something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
I want to respond to that man that complained about the bus driver with the school passes.
Yeah, I don't blame him. You want to know why, pal? I hate bus drivers. They're sadistic skunks.
Okay, well, listen, I'm a city bus driver. And
That goes for you, too, probably.
okay, probably. I want to give the guy a suggestion.
But you know what annoys me is the satisfaction on their smug, imperious faces when, just as they're about to pull away, some little old lady comes running up and knocks on the door. And with contempt, they sneer as they drive away. I see it all the time, and I thank the good Lord I'm not at the mercy of bus drivers and subway trains and other means of so-called mass transportation.
The same way. Bob, about...
I knew some bus drivers who, many years ago, tried to join the Gestapo SS, but they were turned down by Adolf Eichmann as being too inhumane.
Right.
No, we're going to conclude. Mercy me, 3 hours is gone. The longest 3 hours of my life. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. And they get longer and longer. What is the next Yankee night game? What kind of headline is this? I quote from one of today's tabloids, "Nudie cop, my finest hour." And there you see a photo that is absolutely ludicrous because it shows a 4'7" girl who posed for a magazine with a curious title called Beaver, in the nude, posing in licentious postures, and somebody put a policeman's hat on her. She's saluting, and it says, "Buddies in blue cheer as Sabella comes marching home." Well, that's a lie. The buddies in blue are not cheering. I happen to know a lot of the buddies in blue. I'm proud to say that some of the buddies in blue I count as some of my best friends. They're not cheering at all. If anything, they're embarrassed. The question in my mind is not that Sabella Borges posed for these pictures. The question in my mind is, what is a 4'7" girl doing on a police force anyway? I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming this madness that we have in society today called quotas, affirmative action. I think it's a disgrace. I really do. President's National Security Advisor, Robert McFarlane, said something that's so true. He was responding to a diatribe by that skunk Ortega, that neophyte Castro.
Yes.
And McFarlane said, hey, wait a minute. The problem is between the Sandinista government and its own people. It's not a problem with the United States.
I read it. He gave a very, very good response.
Yeah. Do our civil rights laws protect only some people? Or does the equal protection of the laws apply to all? Should we fight racism by imposing racial quotas, or instead by opposing racial discrimination in all forms? Civil rights only for some? Until recently, no one had the gall to make such a claim forthrightly. But now 2 commission members carried over from the old commission have come out saying that the civil rights laws should protect only certain groups. Civil rights laws were not passed to give civil rights protection to all Americans, as the majority of this commission seems to believe. That's a quote. Commissioners Blandina Cardenas Ramirez and Mary Frances Berry would restrict the coverage of the civil rights laws to disfavored groups. They cite blacks, Hispanics, and women. Meanwhile, David Swinton, director of the Southern Center for Studies in Public Policy, has declared the idea of a colorblind policy patently ridiculous, adding that the Civil Rights Commission was not established to be neutral.
Good night.
Good night. That slams lid on things for tonight. Till tomorrow, Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
The Columbia students?
Go right ahead.
Well, first of all, I think what they're doing is not right until they come to their senses.
You know, Bruce Turn 'em Loose Wright, who really is a disgrace to the... well, wait a minute. I was going to say he was a disgrace to the word judge, but come to think about it, he's got so much company, he's just one of many. But as one of many disgraces to the word judge, He's the one who said the university couldn't do anything about it. In other words, he gives precedence over the disruptors. But at least he's being consistent. Strange man, that Bruce Wright. Strange man. He must hate this country. He must hate society. He must despise. He must despise it all. Because whenever there's a clash between society and the anti-societal elements, he's always for the anti-societal elements. Always, whether they be street criminals or whether they be this type of radical that is demonstrating and blocking. The demonstration doesn't bother me. Blocking students from getting into Hamilton Hall, that is not right.
I'd like to talk about Lew Lehrman.
Yes, Roy.
If he is sincere about his Catholicism, that means he would have to change his position on the death penalty and his whole ultra-conservative economic philosophy.
Well, no, wait a minute. Hold it. First of all, as far as Catholicism is concerned, he would not have to change his stand on the death penalty. You can be a Roman Catholic and be pro-death penalty. You can be a Roman Catholic and be anti-death penalty.
I beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon. Are you Catholic, Roy?
Yes, and I'm a student of Catholic doctrine.
You're not Catholic.
Yes, but I became an Episcopalian when Bishop O'Connor came to New York.
Yeah, see, you're a phony.
Yeah, can I finish? Is this a free expression?
You're not an Episcopalian and you're not Catholic. Roy, why are you lying?
What are you telling me? I'm not an Episcopalian.
Why are you lying, Roy?
I know what I am. You don't know what I am?
No, I do know what you are, but I'm going to let you keep talking anyway.
All right, I'm an Episcopalian. I was a Catholic until Bishop O'Connor came to New York. Now, if Lew Levin...
You know, that's so absurd.
Excuse...
That's so absurd. When Bishop O'Connor leaves, then you'll become a Catholic again?
Well, there's other...
You couldn't shine Bishop O'Connor's shoes, you creep.
There's other things involved. Anyway, Lew Lehrman, if he exploits the death penalty issue and wants to...
Exploits.
And follow...
The only person exploiting the death penalty issue is Mario Cuomo.
I think Lew Lehrman's Catholicism is about as phony as a $3 Confederate bill.
I want to congratulate you. You're not only a brain surgeon, you're a heart surgeon. You can look inside a man's heart.
Hey, Bob.
You little twerp, get off my phone. You're not worthy of another word. Comment about Jesse Jackson and another in his never-ending series of inane anti-American comments. Jackson, by the way, likened the struggle against apartheid to the struggle against Nazism. A gross exaggeration. Slavery. Not an exaggeration, perhaps. The war in Vietnam. Now, how does he include the war in Vietnam? What does he mean? Does he mean he's likening what the Botha government is doing to what Ho Chi Minh did? No, don't be so naive. He means he's likening what the government in South Africa is doing to what Lyndon Johnson did in Southeast Asia. Now, make no mistake about it. Because he has the complexion that he possesses, he's gotten pretty much of a free ride. I believe Zbigniew Brzezinski put it beautifully yesterday.
Yes.
And Gene Kirkpatrick, both of them spoke out on the issue yesterday, and I hope the president succeeds. But this is going to be a tough one because the addle-brained liberals in the House of Representatives are numerous and vocal.
Yeah, you mean that big guy there, the Speaker of the House, eh?
2-ton tip.
Yeah. Oh. He's not fit to run a
Who the heck are you to say who's not fit to run a network? Who the heck are you?
How did you ever get on the radio? You're a Nazi anyway.
I'm a Nazi?
Yeah, I think you're a Nazi. You conduct...
You know what I'd like you to do? Is this Roy of Long Island? Roy, where do you live in Long Island?
What do you care where...
I'll tell you why. Because I'm off the air at 12 midnight. Here's what I'd like you to do, Roy, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
I'm here on the 8th floor. On 13, what's the address here? 1330 Avenue of the Americas. Please, Roy, I'll leave word downstairs. I want you to come over here because I want you to call me a Nazi to my face. Will you do that, Roy?
What are you going to have?
Will you do that, Roy? Because then I'll knock your nose down your throat, you creep!
From Brooklyn. Regarding Mr. Horn, Bob, earlier tonight, it was pointed out on TV News, Channel 7, that the flag being waved by Columbia University students opposed to apartheid is a South African Communist Party flag. Now, he didn't mention that. The man is a fraud. He's a low-life communist pig, and I would like to do the sign-off.
All right. Go ahead. Do the sign-off.
Well, you've got to start it off.
Okay. Tell Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it.
Get the Columbia Communist demonstrators.
Radio.
We should aid the Contra freedom fighters because I believe the Sandinistas betrayed the revolution.
How should we aid them?
With military aid.
All right. Now you're talking. Now, the reason I was asking you these questions is, you see, we are so crippled by the powerful left-wing forces. You would have thought the Democrats won the November election. You know that?
Right.
But we're so crippled by this left-wing brainwash that the president had to resort to, and I'm going to use this word, a slight bit of chicanery when he talked about asking only for economic aid. What economic aid? They need military aid. That's what they need.
Right, and I agree with that 100%.
Now, I say this. I'll tell you where the analogy of Vietnam comes in. In Vietnam,
right,
there was a statement that we should not let Ho Chi Minh prevail. Right or wrong, that was the statement. And yet the whole war was fought by Lyndon Baines Johnson, the greatest fraud ever to enter the White House. That whole war was fought in such a way so as not to win. So as not to win. Till then, Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi! Here's a letter from Nancy Kellad of Jersey City, New Jersey. Dear Bob, quoting Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal, he said, now pay attention, Simon Wiesenthal said this, not every SS member carried out atrocities, as some half-baked journalists tend to assume. He was quoted as having said that on April 17th, 1985. You'll find it on page 18 of the Star Ledger. Now the lady goes on to say, the incessant, angry, and vehement clamor uttered against President Reagan, especially on talk shows, buries the focal point of the cemetery visit in Germany. The visit is a thankful celebration of 40 years of peace following the end of World War II, European theater. A war that was, in truth, a Holocaust suffered by both enemy and Allied forces. Jews in particular are gathering, celebrating the 40 years of peace with the joys of reunions, of feasting and dancing, tempered with memorial services for their own individual and collective dead. 40 years of peace celebrates man's ability to live in peace, especially felt by the West German government and its people. For the Germany of today celebrates the death of the Nazi nightmare. Therefore, it is fitting for our president to visit Bitburg, a German military cemetery holding the bodies of 47 SS members. The Nazi nightmare will not be forgotten. It is boldly written in history. Signed, Marion Kellad. Well, I don't happen to agree with Marion, but I think she makes a good point.
Last week in Nicaragua, about aid to the Contras.
Yes.
And I thought that, Ortega played it very smartly by giving a few tokens of a veneer of moderation. And I was thinking, if this continues, that eventually the Contras will be choked off, and then the mask will fall off of Ortega's face, and that'll leave us the choice of direct military intervention or allowing that entity to exist in Central America.
Well, the entity will exist in Central America and will thrive in Central America because we have chosen to cripple ourselves.
Exactly. And a thing that I thought was very funny, that I was listening to one of the all-news stations last week, right after the vote, and Tip O'Neill said that this vote is putting Nicaragua on notice.
Baloney.
Notice of what? That the country's theirs? That Central America's theirs? That was like the biggest example of double talk I have ever heard in my entire life.
Well, the incredible thing is that Ortega wasted no time in going to Moscow.
Exactly.
And how come Tip O'Neill didn't reverse himself then?
Well, unfortunately, he's got to go against the president no matter what.
Absolutely. Politics comes first, and that's the trouble with a lot of politicians.
Yeah.
But Norman Podhoretz, who is one of the most brilliant observers of the political scene, the world scene in the world today, who is editor of Commentary Magazine, puts it very well in a column titled Handing Nicaragua Over to the Reds.
You know, there was a crime rave in Central Park last weekend. Roving bands of sneaker-clad savages. They attacked people, anything of value they tried to take. It was reminiscent of the attacks on the covered wagon people, and of course, they got away with it, except for 11, they got arrested. However, if it backfired, even though the crowd chased and caught some, the cops had to rescue them, not enough people had the proper equipment. Now, I'm not talking about guns. I'm talking about the people, at least, they could have a bat. It's permissible to have a baseball bat in your car to prevent McKinney Genovese situation. Every man listening should have a baseball bat painted black with flat back spray paint that doesn't shine.
I wonder if that would be legal if they had to use it in a baseball game. Who knows? I guess if they don't put pine tar on it, it's okay, Mo. Anyway, I'll tell George Brett you called. Thank you, Mo. Hello, David. You're on Talk Radio 77 WABC. I tell you, Mo's got a hang up. He's living in a siege mentality. It's too bad. You're on 77 WABC. Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Billy.
I got your back, Goomba.
Hey.
I got your back no matter what time, what day. I'm with you, baby.
I tell you, it makes me feel good, Billy, as long as I know you're there.
If you ever went on during the day, the other radio stations would have to shut down. They'd have to shut down. And at night, right now, they're all shut down anyway. But there's nobody in your league, my friend. You are the best. You're the master of the airways. You know that. But, Bob, I'm calling up to just give you a little opinion about how I feel about these guys now being picked up, and right away it's brutality on the cops.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that amazing? They're coming out of the woodwork now.
Bob, there's a station down on the other end of the dial, a black-owned station now. They got a campaign going with a private number. If you've been brutalized since 1984, call this number. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry's going to be calling this number, looking to make a job ahead. They're looking to, make a Malavaguda with the city.
Of course.
This is unheard of, Bob. These cops, I really feel sorry for some of these cops. Now when they bring them in, they got to bring them in with kid gloves and serve them cheesecake and coffee. Gabish?
Well, listen, let me say this, Billy.
What?
Human nature being what it is,
yeah.
The average cop has got to say to his wife, I don't think I'm going to break my couillons anymore on the job. I'm going to take it easy.
That's right. But you know who suffers, Bob?
The public.
You and I will suffer because now the cops won't be so gun-ho to grab these guys. They're going to look the other way. And what's going to happen? Our homes are going to be vandalized. Our cars are going to be stolen. Our relatives are going to be mugged and robbed. And it's going to just be bad. And the people in this city have only got to blame themselves because they're letting scum like this get away with this. They're going to make all kinds of false accusations and false charges. But, Bob, you don't have nothing to worry about. You're in good hands with us.
Oh, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. After the 6 o'clock news, I will be broadcasting live from the USS Intrepid. Monday night, New York City will pay tribute to our Vietnam vets with a memorial and fireworks display. And I will be broadcasting live from the USS Intrepid with 800 dignitaries. Mayor Koch will be there. I think the governor will be there. Both U.S. senators. And whoever is there will be heard on this microphone. But you know something? I'm proud of the fact that WABC is making this commitment. And I salute the gentlemen at the helm, Mark Mason, Jim Haviland, for showing what dedicated people they are. I'm proud of them. But what disturbs me is the fact that there are other people who I suspect are paying tribute a little late, folks, and perhaps out of guilt more than anything else. All of a sudden, it's fashionable now to salute Those poor schnooks that went over there and fought and got maimed, and in the case of over 58,000, died, only to come back to be spat upon, to be ridiculed, only to have to endure the obscenity of people like so-called Americans like Ramsey Clark and Jane Fonda, speaking from Hanoi itself, the capital of the enemy. And make no mistake, whether the war was wise, whether it was not wise, whether it was fought with intelligence or with stupidity, whether it was just or unjust, is beside the point. When American boys were in foxholes being shot at, when American boys were in airplanes being knocked out of the skies by ACAC and anti-aircraft fire by an enemy, that enemy should never have been given aid and comfort. But Lee Duc-Tho, the infamous foreign minister for that swine Ho Chi Minh, Lee Duc-Tho, on the American Broadcasting Company's television outlets the other night, thanked, as well he should, thanked all his friends in America, because without his friends in America, the Hanoi government would not exist today. And so, yes, I'll be there. I'll be the host. I'll be proud to take that microphone to the USS Intrepid. But if I come across anybody that I remember being a pipsqueak weasel in the 1970s, giving aid and comfort to Hanoi, they're going to hear from me. I'll push them off the boat. I don't know how you feel, Mr. Levin, but it really rankles me that all of a sudden it's fashionable to salute our soldiers who fought in Vietnam when 10 years ago they were ridiculed and humiliated by the country that sent them there.
Well, Bob, first of all, thank you for having me, and I'll tell you quite frankly, I think the measuring stick today is how these same people 10 years later are acting with regard to Nicaragua. Ortega made an absolute fool out of us last week while our Congress was trying to take away that measly $14 million Ortega is going to Moscow, to the fellows who pull the puppet strings, to get more cash. And we find my erstwhile opponent, Stephen Solarz, all of a sudden being quoted for the first time in the New York Daily News saying, we're going to have to do something about Nicaragua because I don't quite see them moving over to democracy. But which way did Stephen Solarz vote on giving funds to Nicaragua? You see what he has done, and I think it's important to keep him in the hot seat. Because this week in the National Review, John McLaughlin has an article in which he points out that suddenly Solarz is to the right of Reagan in giving $5 million of support to the freedom fighters in Cambodia. Now, I want to say publicly on these radio waves, Stephen Solarz, that that's not enough. Don't do it 6,000 or 12,000 miles away when, God forbid, another Vietnam might be developing a festering cancer right in our backyard. We won't be satisfied, Stephen, with anything you try to do, passing around letters that the president should be tough with New Zealand. We want to see you telling the president and the rest of your liberal buddies like Michael Barnes and company to be tough and give those people down there, those freedom fighters in Nicaragua, the wherewithal to clean up the mess so that our boys won't have to go down there in a few years to defend our borders if, God forbid, there should have to be a mandatory draft. Bob, first of all, I think we have to have eyes in our head to see that the press has been using this cynically, exploiting the issue, but particularly exploiting the deepest and most sensitive feelings of the Jewish community by reawakening and resummoning the vivid memories of the brutality of the Nazis and the SS. And they have utilized this because they have been unable in any other manner to get at the person that they refer to as the Teflon man, President Reagan. And my proof of this, Bob, is the fact that suddenly buried in the newspaper in New York Times on, I don't know, page 7 or 8 last week, we learned that for 25 years, officials have been participating at Bitburg in joint ceremonies very similar to that which President Ronald Reagan is going to participate in. Now, I ask you, for 25 years this was kosher, and then suddenly the press digs it up, and when Ronald Reagan is doing it, everybody starts to get hysterical, and we accuse him of honoring Nazis. Mitterrand, the newspapers tell us on page 10, and the Prime Minister of the Netherlands also participated in similar ceremonies. Yet only when Ronald Reagan is doing it do we suddenly accuse him of honoring the Nazis. Now, I ask you, the day after this thing is over and in the weeks to come, can any rational person, after the whole hullabaloo and after the president's disclaimers and after the speech he's going to make at Bitburg, and we see what's now unfolding, he's taking with him victims of the Nazi Holocaust with him to Bitburg, standing side by side with Koch, who made that speech at Bergen-Belsen, where I say that wearing that yarmulke, and next door to him, standing beside him, was that other fellow, maybe it was Genscher, with a black hat. They looked like they were actually coming out of an Orthodox synagogue. And he said, we can never forget our shame, and we'll never be a nation, etc., etc. Can anybody really, really think that Ronald Reagan is honoring Nazis? Or is this hysteria actually a vindictive attack by the press to discredit him as a world leader on the eve of the Star Wars talks and on the eve of the Geneva Arms talks and on this very important economic summit? And who will be blamed later on if, God forbid, something should come apart? I don't want to see them exploit us further so that, God forbid, it should be laid at the doorstep of the Jewish community that the Jews wounded and, quote-unquote, hurt the president and his ability to lead.
You raise an interesting point, and I hope everybody was following every word you said, Mr. Levin. By the way, you were addressed in a previous program in which I saw you on television as Rabbi Levin. Are you a rabbi?
I am a rabbi.
Okay. Then,
you know, Stephen Solarz, Bob, is running scared. I told the Jewish community that, of course, if I would succeed in winning, this would have been the upset of the 84 election.
Came close.
Well, 35% was double what anybody else had received against him. I did it in 50 days with $50,000. Solarz is running so scared that he has put himself, as I predicted he would if he won. I said he'd never again take us for granted, and sure enough, he's put himself on the education subcommittee to get money for parochial schools. He has sent out this past Friday 4 pieces of mail to the Borough Park community. He is on Jewish talk radio programs saying, I'll never take you for granted again. And he's moving to the right, as reported in the National Review, to the amazement of the Washingtonians. But
to the distress of Anthony Lewis.
Well, I pledge to you this, though, Stephen Solarz, that as long as you are going to continue to ignore the will of the overwhelming amount of Americans and your community and support immorality such as sponsoring the homosexual so-called rights board, as long as you're going to continue to be a thorn in the side of American foreign policy and the president by supporting to as much as you can every quasi-communist Ortega-type dictatorship, that we will be here to report it to the public, and it will cost you a lot of money, it will cost you dearly, and perhaps you will not hold office. We're not going away. As a matter of fact, we're growing stronger and stronger. If Stephen Solarz is a good boy and he moves to the right enough and learns his place as a representative of the people and not as somebody who makes fun of our district by saying, we think Zimbabwe is Baskin-Robbins ice cream, if he learns not to be arrogant and start to pay attention, then maybe we'll let him stay for another few years.
You don't think Rabbi Levin is Meshuggah, do you?
Yeah, well, I really do. I think he's not playing with a full deck. I mean...
Well, nobody is, really. Even I don't have 52 cars, only 51.
Bob, you've been in close touch with Barry Farber, right, to get this nut here? I mean, what's the idea? Who needs him?
You know what Barry Farber said? He said the same thing I said, and I said, Barry...
I hope they mention me on his station. What station is his, anyway? Now, that's Monday night. Tomorrow night, the New York Yankees play the Kansas City Royals. You can join Philip Rajut, Frank Messer, Bill Bianca, and John Gordon. John Gordon! for the pregame at 7:44. Holy cow, Scooter, did you see that? Unbelievable. Boy, if you're listening, Mr. Steinbrenner, they're very good boys. They haven't said anything negative yet. Until tomorrow night following Yankee baseball, don't forget I'll be on the Intrepid Monday, broadcasting live from there. This is Bob Grant, reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi!
You're pretty smart, and you yourself know that this is wrong, and the Rabbi Levin is a complete person who is not to be listened to. The Jewish community despises.
Well, he doesn't think for 1 minute that the Jewish community...
It's an absolute no.
Wait a minute, you're speaking for the Jewish community, Stella?
Yes, I am, because...
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored. We have Stella on the line, who has been delegated by the Jewish community to speak for them.
Right, because no person who is a Jew and is a thinking American is going to...
You're speaking only for yourself, Stella. You know, Stella, you must think your argument is weak.
Other people, Bob.
You know, Stella, you must think your argument is weak.
Why was he on...
If you feel that you have to...
Why you had this...
Uffa, thank you, Stella. I'm getting tired of you. Radio 77 WABC. I was trying to say to Stella, she must think her argument is weak if she feels that she's delegated to be the proxy for every other Jewish person in the audience. Until then, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi.
So when Leonid Brezhnev was the head honcho, in Russia, he promulgated something called the Brezhnev Doctrine that stated that once there was a so-called socialist revolution, i.e. communist revolution, that it was irreversible, and it was the duty of the mother country, the Soviet Union, to make sure that the counter-revolutionaries would never overthrow the revolution.
Yes, he enunciated the so-called Brezhnev Doctrine to justify his cruel crushing of Czechoslovak freedom in August of 1968.
Right. Now, we have a situation now in this hemisphere, in Nicaragua, where they have a so-called socialist, i.e. communist revolution, and we have the majority party in the House of Representatives acting as the enforcers of the Brezhnev Doctrine. And it's a very, very curious situation. The thing that really reminded me of it was a story in today's paper that said that two Democratic congressmen, a George Miller of California and a David Bonnier of Michigan, went down to see Comandante Ortega in Managua. And while there's no way of knowing what they discussed with him, the speculation is that they pleaded with him not to embarrass the Democrats again by running to Moscow. And the speculation also is that they said that they just have to hold out another few years, and there may be another administration that would be more friendly to them installed in Washington. And a few weeks ago, we had Senators John Kerry and Tom Harkin acting as messenger boys for Comandante Ortega, running down in and running back with some meaningless peace offering from him. And then we had the Democrats writing that Dear Comandante letter, which essentially advised the Sandinistas how to manipulate the U.S. Congress. Now, and then, of course, we don't have to go over the cutting off of aid to the Contras. Now, we have a party that is actually acting as surrogates for the Sandinistas and for the Soviet Union. I don't know how else to characterize it, Bob.
Well, it's a great tragedy, really, that two members of the United States Congress would lower themselves to the extent that they would try to help out an anti-American regime and sink so low as to say, hold out for 3 years because there's good news coming in 3 years. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, what they mean by that is a change of administration. Clearly, George Miller and David Bonnier are interested more in the success of the Sandinistas than they are in the success of American foreign policy. But what makes the tragedy really complete, in my view, is that Miller in particular, and Bonnier to a lesser degree, come from districts whose constituents actually applaud what they're doing. George Miller, in particular, comes from a district in California that has wall-to-wall leftist radicals, the very type who cheered Ho Chi Minh and who saluted Jane Fonda in her scurrilous activities, saluting the very anti-aircraft crews who shot down American boys. So the real problem, George, is not that Miller and Bonnier have peculiar views. The real problem is that their constituencies see fit to leave them in Congress. That's the real anomaly to me. Thank you, George.
I can comment about his speaking. You know, I'm a shorthand reporter, and I sometimes write down. And while he was talking, that other young fellow, I looked through my notes here, and this is, I swear to you, this is an actual statement that Mr. Koch made. He said, I'm reading from my notes here, that the bullet proof vest is made of three R's. One's a presumed
Go ahead.
It is bullet proof. He has a habit of using those audible pauses over and the audible pauses. And I can't believe that he doesn't do it deliberately. I wouldn't be surprised if he said that he was the mayor of New York. You get the...
Paul, am I glad you called?
What?
I'm glad you called. You make it almost worthwhile to be here.
Well, perhaps you might mention that to me. I don't even think he realizes that he does it, although some of his aides...
You know what floors me as a person who's interviewed him many times. He does it to me, but I get a bigger kick out of it when he does it to somebody else. He's got a gimmick. A reporter will ask him something, an interviewer will ask him something, and he doesn't really want to answer the question. So instead he says to the interviewer, may I tell you something? Now, the average interviewer, I guess all interviewers, whether it's somebody like Larry King, who really doesn't know how to interview, or somebody like Gabe Pressman, who does, is going to say, yes, of course, Your Honor. And then, because you've said, yes, of course, Your Honor, he will proceed. Well, one time I had him on, he said, Bob, may I tell you something? And I said, no, Mayor, I want to pursue the point I was trying to make. You know what? He didn't pay any attention to me. He just went right ahead with the That's why I laughed so much.
Well, absolutely right. As a matter of fact, the trans-Russians in Afghanistan far outweigh the trans-Russians in South Africa. In South Africa, there's not a considered genocidal program to murder, but Amnesty International estimates that perhaps 4 to 4.5 million Afghans. As a matter of fact, there is no killing. There's some random shootings. There's some incidents, but unlike Afghanistan, South Africa was not invaded by a foreign power. Unlike Afghanistan, there are people who want to get into South Africa so that they can earn much better money than they could earn anywhere on the continent of Africa. I could go on and on, but you know what amazes me is how these boobs get involved with these rallies, and I'm sure that the media doesn't realize what it's doing but by focusing cameras on them constantly and having reporters cover it every day, these boobs really think they're doing something. These boobs really think that they're politically astute. When they're not. They're just a bunch of bums is what they are. From the New York line, Bob Grant. Hello, Frank.
Yes, Bob. Bob, you were speaking earlier about why there is such a lack of coverage in the media about what's going on in Afghanistan, where the internationalist outlaws of the Kremlin are committing their genocidal holocaust while the rats and pigs of the UN stand silent. Well, you know, Bob, we only have to learn from what happened in Vietnam. And that was that America was stabbed in the back. America was stabbed in the back in Vietnam by the media criminals. You see, whenever an heroic and freedom-loving people stand up to defend their country, against the international criminals of the Kremlin, the media criminals in this country begin to spin their spider's web of lies, distortion, innuendo, and outright anti-American propaganda. They are the media. I consider them not only public enemy number one, but they're like termites that hide in the woodwork of democracy. They pervert, they subvert the First Amendment. You know, we saw it in 1982 when the Israelis cleaned out the left-wing PLO lice and vermin from Lebanon. The way they expounded every lie, every distortion that was coming out of Moscow to compare the Israelis to the Nazi siege of Stalingrad when they were in Beirut. They've done it to South Africa when they cleaned out the Cuban Africa Corps in Angola. They're trying to do this job now on Ferdinand Marcos, an anti-Japanese guerrilla freedom fighter of World War II who saved untold thousands of American lives. And they did it to Dr. Eden Pastora, the George Washington of Central America, who's fighting to regain his homeland from these Sandinista outlaws. You see, according to the media, freedom-loving people are not supposed to defeat left-wing insurgents. They're not supposed to smash Moscow-supported terrorism. Soviet acts of genocide are continuing, and yet there's always this silence. There's always a rationalization for it. You know, there was a documentary on Channel 13 on Frontline about Afghanistan. Do you know, Bob, that the film that they used, and they didn't mention it, was over 3 years old, and it was from British documentary. It wasn't even done by the person that made this documentary. They're constantly lying. And you know what gets me, Bob, the most? The way they try to rationalize this fat pig now that they've got in the Kremlin, Gorbachev, saying that because he's of a younger generation, he's not a Stalinist. Well, do you know that when he marked the 40th anniversary of the Soviet victory over the National Socialists, he said that Stalin was the great wartime hero. That's what I've read in the Times. They're even thinking of making Volgograd Stalingrad once again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the American people have to understand who the real criminals of this are.
Without a doubt. Remember, in 1919, Leon Trotsky, who was then the Commissar of War, declared the road to Paris and London lies through the towns of Afghanistan, the Punjab, and Bengal. Thank you very much for your call, Frank. Quickly.
Yes, I think there's a real attempt by powerful elements and the same people that got us involved in the aggression against Vietnam to rewrite the war right now, because they realize that the defeat there is staying in the hands of people like Reagan to try the same thing against Nicaragua.
Oh, come on. There's no comparison between the two, for heaven's sake.
I know you would say that. You've been a
All right, get off the phone, you creep! I'm sorry you got on. Been the case?
Right.
We've gotten so spoiled. We're kidding ourselves. And let me leave you with this, Rich.
Right.
Who pays for all of this? How would you like to be a young lady or a young man, 21, starting out in the workforce, knowing the tremendous burden of taxes you're going to be paying?
Please, I understand.
You know, when Social Security was enacted,
Yep.
exactly 50 years ago, almost to the day, there were 40 workers working for every recipient. Now it's barely 6 workers for every recipient.
Right.
I mean, you know, somebody's got to get up and remind everybody that there are people paying to make sure others collect. You know, we all can't be Claude Pepper saying, "Don't tamper with Social Security." I tell you, when he retires, I'm going to throw a party. And I know the only thing that's going to get him retired. You get it? Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Jewish. I mean, I'm being honest about this.
I don't know what being Jewish has to do with the price of beans and... What is it? How do you not make any sense?
All right, let me explain to you.
The mayor should have been at the Apollo.
Really?
I should have watched Gil Noble. What the heck's going on around here?
Come on, Bob. What I'm bringing out is...
Yeah, you got to be bringing something out.
Yeah, I am. In watching...
You got to bring a full moon out if you keep it up. That's okay. I like full moons. Full moon and empty arms. Where is everybody tonight? Excuse me a little.
I love that song.
I mean, gee, thanks, Yankees. Thanks.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm thanking the Yankees because I don't know where everybody is. I mean, I got spoiled sitting here with 18 lights blinking and blinking. Now it's just you and me, Eleanor.
It's Claude Pepper, like you saw,
Anyone in Turkey you killed last week, the day that guy goes, boy, I'm going to open up a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, we're going to throw a party, a Claude Pepper farewell party. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
And we're going to have to wait a long time for it, I'm afraid.
Both senators are for ratification of this monstrous...
Well, of course. What would you expect from Dodd and that other guy? What would you expect from Dodd and Weicker?
I know.
What would you expect?
Well...
You wouldn't expect common sense from them, would you? But this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. Get Gaddafi. Maybe you didn't know about Donald McDougal, but I saluted him at 9 o'clock when I could have screamed fire and nobody would have moved. So I want to repeat my salute to the Brooklyn diabetic, disabled Brooklyn man fed up with being harassed by a gang of street corner thugs who fought back and killed the ringleader. McDougal, 37, a diabetic unable to work, went out on Saturday to buy some shampoo for his grandmother. And at the corner of, I don't know, I think it was Hughes and Broadway, that's in Williamsburg, the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, he was set upon by a gang of marauders armed with knives and sawed-off pipes. Now, this wasn't the first time McDougal has been shaken down by the same skunks before. I just wanted to buy some shampoo for my grandmother, and I had already given them $1, said McDougal, but it wasn't enough. The toughs poked at him, plunging their hands into his pockets, grabbing him by the collar. And then the leader of the gang, Carlos Top Cat Garcia, stuck a knife in McDougal's face. I didn't want to hurt anybody, but I just said enough is enough. I pulled out my own knife and stuck it into his chest. Garcia, who was also 37, and by the way, McDougal's grammar school classmate, fell bleeding to the ground. But McDougal's ordeal wasn't over. As he ran down the street, police said he was pursued by Jesus Marquis, Rosa Moya, and several other gang members. Marquis had a knife and quickly caught up to McDougal, who was unsteady on his feet. I could feel something in my back. Over and over again, I thought he was stabbing me, said McDougal. Police officers John Billich and Dennis Matchell arrived just in time to jump Marquis, but seeing McDougal covered with blood and wielding a weapon, they ordered him to drop it. The cops discovered the knife Marquis was using to carve up McDougal had failed to open, and he was stabbing him with a wooden handle. The cops rushed Garcia to Woodhull, I don't know why, where he died, thank goodness, after surgery. But the best part of the story is McDougal had been charged with manslaughter, but the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office dropped the charges yesterday morning, declaring the incident a case of self-defense. Well, nobody will have to worry about Top Cat Garcia anymore. One less mutant. One down, 10 million to go. So I'm aware of the fact that this program and other programs do attract a certain group of people who are very activist, who like to call, who have massive and find it no problem to call talk shows. But you know, every now and then, I have a dream, and that dream is that I get new callers. Then I wake up, and I find that it was just a dream, and I'm back to reality, and I'm on the air, and I say, hello, this is Bob Grant, you're on Talk Radio 77, Kenny. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I haven't called you in almost 3 weeks.
Oh, my.
Okay.
You must be suffering from withdrawal.
Okay, it's no joke.
You're going to get the bends.
This is the fastest I ever got on.
no joke to hold on 40.
Well, it's easy because there's no regular Bob Grant program right now, so there's nobody in line. Nobody. There's a big group of guys saying, "Oh, heck, our bus is going off early. Oh, gee, so maybe I should be taking sports calls." Anyway, Kenny, what would you like to say?
Okay. Well, a few things.
A few things. It'll be very few, Kenny.
Okay. You run an opposite program at our left-wing radical station in our upstate WBI. It's weird. I don't know, when you first started out 15 years ago, and I heard you, maybe you decided to do an opposite program to them. When you're for law and order, you talk to the opposite. When I hear them, hear you, not in a different state, I'm in a different country. You understand?
No, I don't understand. I don't know what you're talking about.
You do an opposite program of the left-wing radical station, WBAI. Completely opposite.
I do?
Yeah.
I'm not on WBAI.
This station. You're the answer to them. You understand?
No, I don't understand. Kenny, it's too bad your life is so empty that you don't have anything besides listening to talk shows.
Okay, I want to continue. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't even know you began, but go ahead.
This organization move was a cult. Now, it was a cult, same one like Jim Jones. To tell them to kill. It's right to kill the children, to break up the family unit. And this was investigated by some woman in the Philadelphia News. And opposite, they had no intention to go out with what they claim with nature, to go out in the wilderness. So they fortified the things. It's all right if they, on one hand, if they use garlic around them and rats, but they had no other ways. They played into these radicals' hands when they bombed them. It had something to talk about it. I would have thought that they would have rammed them. When you bomb or when you fire into some place with explosive and it's all close together, it's going to ignite and it's going to start a fire.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
Something else.
That's Kenny on our WABC telephone line. Thank you, Kenny. I feel like a spastic when I listen to him. I start going, blah, 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 blah. Do you get that way?
One more issue?
Why not? What the heck, Leon? As long as we're having a private conversation, you and me, why not?
We're not having it for everybody.
Oh, no? You want to bet?
Okay. Did you watch the fight last night?
No. How could I watch the fight? First of all...
Oh, you were on.
First of all, even if I wasn't, I wouldn't watch the fight because fights don't interest me. That's number one.
Okay.
I don't consider boxing a sport. I don't consider it a sport where the only objective is to knock the other guy, to scramble the other guy's brains.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That doesn't make... I'm not wearing a halo. That doesn't make me such a nice guy. But
I agree.
Okay?
That's what I want to...
Secondly, believe it or not, I was actually on the air. Nobody knows it, but I was, Leon.
Where were you?
Yep.
You were on the station.
From 9... No, I wasn't on this station. Another station. Of course I was on this station.
Yeah, okay. Yes, hi, Bob. How are you? I was just listening to your...
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm feeling just peachy keen. I'll give my health update and my mental state. I'm feeling peachy keen. Okay, now I've saved everybody from having to ask me how I am.
Goodbye. Yes, Mr. Grant, how you doing?
Well, do you really want to go into that, or do you want to talk about what you called, Bob?
No, I want to talk about what I called up.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, how you doing, Bob?
How am I doing? How am I doing? What does that mean, how am I doing? What does it mean?
Bob, I'm a first-time caller, and...
Yeah, okay, you want to just stall for time a little bit? Okay.
Okay.
I'm doing fine. Here, I'll do it like all the other talk show hosts. I'm doing fine, Des. How are you?
Hey, thanks a lot, Bob. I'm doing just fine myself.
Okay, now we're like all the other shows.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's what I said. I believe I said it about 22 minutes ago.
Okay. Now, and then after that, everybody will be happy. Bob, I hope you're...
Well, that's a phrase. Everybody will be happy. Don't hold me to it specifically. Maybe Jan Christian van Doberstein won't be happy. What would you like to say, Des? I have a feeling you're leading up to something with this line of questioning.
Okay, Bob, I think...
Because, Des, it's been my rather disturbing experience since 1963 when I foolishly said to my boss, yeah, I think I'll quit being sports director here and become a telephone talk show host. It's been my experience all this time that when people with a Uriah Heep approach, such as You, Des.
Okay.
When you ask these rather seeming innocuous, ingenuous questions, you really have a case to make. And you just like to waste time. So rather, let's be upfront, Des, and say what's on your mind and stop asking the build-up questions.
Okay, now, the Democrats in the House seem to make really good speeches, but they also seem to be really naive, They seem to believe that the Soviet Union has been straining their own economic system because they like Castro cigars. I mean, and for the same reason that they're giving support to Nicaragua. They just want them to... They have Castro to create an unstable situation in Central America and Africa, and they want the same from Nicaragua. The guys in the Politburo aren't giving money to Ortega because they like his military uniform. They want something in return. And I think that's fairly obvious.
Well, the people that you're talking about in the House of Representatives really haven't learned from history at all. They haven't learned. Tip O'Neill hasn't learned. I don't understand, Tip O'Neill. We hear all this story about how being grossly overweight and obese is bad for your health, how high cholesterol count is bad for your health, and yet this guy keeps going on and on and on.
Well, Tip O'Neill seems to like Gorbachev, but then when he comes back to this country, he calls Ronald Reagan stupid. And, I don't know what it is. I don't really know what it is. I don't know if they really believe all the disinformation that comes in from Soviet Union and Cuba, etc., or they're just very stupid. They don't read history. I mean, it's written. Maybe they can vote out, put these guys out of office, like Tip O'Neill or whatever.
Well, he's safe in perpetuity. He lives in a district that's so stupid. It would vote for him if he said, listen, I just got word that I'm going to live to be 992 years old. He'd be reelected till the year 2416. Yeah. Jack Kemp is another one. I think the president really wants to see it. But there are a lot of members of the president's own party in the United States Senate that I'm afraid really don't want to see a flat tax bill. And I know a lot of mockers. I was at a party out in the Five Towns area, and all these guys bragging about how they write off this and write off that and write this off. One big slob just bought a great big boat. And this skunk was bragging how the boat really didn't cost him all that much because he's able to write it off. He uses it to entertain business clients. Now, what makes this so terrible is not just that this slob gets away with it. By the way, I'd love to expose him because I know the business he's in and what a crook he is. But the fact of the matter is, this particular individual is taking money out of your pockets in more ways than one. How? I'll tell you how. Because he doesn't pay his fair share, you have to make up the slack.
Just wanted to talk about the homosexual judge that was just appointed.
I think the whole thing is an abomination. I think it's utterly sickening. This guy has his male lover give him a great big kiss right in front of everybody, and he says, boy, do I have the courage for coming out like this.
No.
I mean, it's sickening. Sickening!
Keep it quiet.
But, the reason is the pandering to political clout. I'm the only guy that has, and I'm not an elected official. I don't run for anything. Maybe that's why I'm the only guy who does it. But I keep talking about the fact that there's another side of the coin. When you get Claude Pepper, who runs around the country mumbling, don't tamper with Social Security. I asked him once, several years ago, I said, Congressman, you keep talking about tampering with Social Security. Isn't it tampering when you keep raising the Social Security tax and the ceiling on which that tax is paid? Isn't it tampering for those people? Well, he didn't know. He just became absolutely flustered. He didn't know how to handle that. But the fact of the matter is, they don't think about guys like you, Fred. They don't think about guys like Mike. You're 29, Mike's 28. They don't think about you guys. Very disappointed, by the way, with my good friend Senator Alphonse D'Amato's transparent charade. And I'm sorry, Al, that's what it seems like. While I was viewing him on the West Coast in that so-called Tea Party with Mario Biaggi. It saddened me. I couldn't even get angry with the senator because I think that it's very obvious that he just wants to look like he's on the, quote, right side of the issue. The right side of the issue is that we need tax reform, number one. The right side of the issue is that New Yorkers or Californians or whoever have no right to expect that they can have high state taxes and then turn right around and deduct those, and people elsewhere have to take up the slack.
It's regarding Angola. In 1975, Henry Kissinger went before Congress and pleaded for aid to the
UNITO,
to the Angolan government that was besieged by the communists. They refused that aid. And at that time, Congressman Stuart McKinney of Connecticut,
yep,
along with our good Senator Lowell Weicker,
beautiful Quinella,
said this: if the Russians succeed, if the communists succeed in taking over Angola, I guarantee that the Angolans will kick the Russians out within 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
This is it's not verbatim, but I know this quote well.
Yeah.
And what's happened? Here, McKinney and Weicker consistently vote against aid to every rebel group that's resisting communist aggression in the world.
Yeah.
And here we have the same situation in Nicaragua. Secretary Schultz asked for aid. McKinney and Weicker say no. Why does McKinney think he's so right after being so wrong?
Well, maybe since he's been reelected about 5-6 times since then.
Well, he's reelected by talking about the old folks.
Yeah, so he probably...
And the railroads.
Yeah. And Weicker, he's... let's see, if that was 75, he's been reelected twice since then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But this is their story. I mean, they did it with Batista.
Oh, yeah.
Same story. Chiang Kai-shek.
You know what's frightening is they never learn. That's what's really frightening.
Yeah. The liberals have been wrong so many times. How could anybody believe in anything that they say?
Well, unfortunately, we go down with them. You know, if we wouldn't go down with them, I'd say okay. But we go down with them if we go down. You know that.
Right.
We're punishable that easy at stake. And when you figure the cost of giving the kids a ride to the beach all summer with that 60% of the full reservoir that we have, it would be worthwhile giving the kids a ride to the beach in the summer and giving the kids a chance to get to the beach. I mean, it's not senior citizens, Bob, that open the...
Hey, Tom, what is this?
It's not...
what is this, some Leo Gorcey movie?
I'm a 65-year-old senior...
What is this, a Leo Gorcey movie now?
Was arrested...
Get off the phone, you creepola. What is this, a Leo Gorcey movie suddenly we're involved with here? Suddenly we got a thing here. Give them money to go to the beach every day. Who are these kids we're talking about anyway? Where do they live? With whom do they live? And heaven forbid, Mom or... I was going to say or Pop, but that's silly. Heaven forbid, Mom or Grandma wouldn't give them 90 cents to go to the beach. I never knew that these kids opened the water hydrants because they couldn't get to the beach. I'll have to conduct a tour on Coney Island next time there's a beach day and ask everybody, would you prefer to be under a fire hydrant at 165th and Crotona Parkway?
And others follow suit very quickly. Another thing, Ortega. The guy represents his country, just like you represent yourself. And if you're looking for a job, let's say you go to...
Oh, this is the dumbest analogy. He represents his country like I represent myself.
Yeah.
Well, that's a classic. That is a classic in inane dialogue. Go ahead, Norman.
Okay, he's a popular leader who represents his country. Okay, now let's say he goes to CBS and asks CBS for a job and they turn him down. So he goes across the street to ABC. It's the same thing with the United States. He goes.
I swear, since I've been preempted from the airwaves so much, that people have gotten dumber. In my relative absence, people have gotten dumber. I can't believe the dumb calls coming in tonight. I can't believe it.
Wait a second.
What is it? The water shortage? What is it?
Just a minute. He's asking the United States to help him, right? The United States says no. We're going to help the contras. So what does he do? He goes to the Soviet Union and asks them for help.
We're talking about Daniel Ortega, who is the leader of a communist government, sworn to subvert his neighbors, sworn to export communist revolution in the Western Hemisphere, and you dismiss him like some guy going from ABC to CBS.
Can I say this, Bob? Could you get somebody on your program who represents Daniel Ortega and what he's fighting for or what his views are?
Yeah, I got you. You're representing him.
I don't know.
You're representing him.
No, just well.
Yeah, what do you mean? Just a minute. You're representing him.
No, look. I don't live in Nicaragua, and I don't know the guy. Okay.
I thought you were his cousin the way you were talking, for heaven's sake.
No. No, I don't know the guy. Okay. But it would be very
I can't believe you're naive. I can't believe, I hate to be so blunt, Norman, but I can't believe what a jerk you are. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe my own ears.
All right, just a minute. I listen to a number of programs, okay? And one of them...
Do you work?
Oh, yeah, I work also.
When do you work?
I'm at work now, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm working by...
Are your welfare checks coming in on time?
Excuse me?
Are your welfare checks coming in on time? Why don't you answer that?
I'm not a politician, so my welfare checks aren't coming in, okay?
Well, how do you support yourself?
I work, okay?
You work, okay?
Yeah.
When do you work?
I'm working now.
You're on the job?
I'm on the job.
What kind of work do you do? I mean, what kind of work do you get paid for not doing?
I do well, I don't want to say on the air because it's none of anybody else's business but my own.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but I just want to say that it would be very nice if you can get people...
Very nice if I get somebody, another apologist, to talk about this communist skunk.
Get somebody from the Nicaraguan embassy or the UN.
Oh, I see. Somebody impartial. Somebody that would give us an objective view.
Just to get his point of view, because from what I understand, Ortega is just looking to help his own country. He's not looking to go communist.
What is Gorbachev doing?
What?
What is Gorbachev doing?
Who is he?
Thank you very much for your call, Norman. Who is he? He doesn't know. I can't believe it. Hey, I'll tell you something, folks. I'll tell you something. It's too bad this pays so well. Because, let me tell you, even though the Yankees have been allowing me to take it easy, I got to tell you, this is not an easy way to make a buck. The agita that these guys can produce, I have more acid in my stomach right there. There's 3 holes right there. Look, you can hear it. It's like battery acid. I can't believe these guys. Alert you to the fact that the Tom Haydens and Jane Fondas of this country, who were so uncharacteristically quiet ever since the forces of Ho Chi Minh's communist skunks prevailed in Southeast Asia, who were so uncharacteristically quiet when the Cambodians were ravaged to the tune of 3 million people. The Jane Fondas, the Tom Haydens of this country, who were so uncharacteristically quiet a month ago when we paid tribute to the Vietnam veterans, now want to have another tribute, only this time not to the great, brave men who fought and died and were maimed in Southeast Asia. They want to have a tribute to those rat-finks skunks who deserted, who took off for Canada, Sweden, and other parts, who burned draft cards, who led rallies, who helped Ho Chi Minh win his victory.
Just a few days ago, anti-defense, pro-freeze, ultra-liberal Senator
Alan Cranston introduced this VVA charter legislation in the Senate. Today, unopposed, this VVA charter bill is building steam, may be voted out favorably by the Senate Judiciary Committee at any time, any day. And let me tell you, if Alan Cranston, whom I know a great deal of because I lived and worked in California when he held state office, and then when he beat Max Rafferty for the United States Senate, I can tell you Alan Cranston has been in the vanguard of every leftist cause since 1937.
Hello.
Cross, is that your name?
No.
What is your name?
Cross.
All right, I said Cross, is that your name? And you said no. Okay. Then I say, what is your name? And you say Cross. Okay.
I don't want to offend you, Bob Grant. You hear me?
I beg your pardon?
I don't want to offend you, what I'm about to say.
All right, then get on your knees so I don't get offended.
All right, about Reagan. The thing what Reagan did, respect to Germany.
Hello?
Yes.
Deposit 30 cents.
Hey, is this the guy with the 30 cents? This is the guy with the 30 cents.
When Reagan went to Germany to pay... You hear me?
Bring back AT&T, folks. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. When Reagan went there to Germany to pay his respect, I would do the same thing if I was Reagan. See?
Why are you shouting?
Well, I raise my voice so you can hear me.
Is your wife in the background making noise?
Back from you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, the thing about it is you can't bring back the dead. See?
I'll have to remember that.
I still say this of all these leaders of the world, if it goes like Alexander the Great, or Solomon, or Napoleon.
Alexander the Great, they say, was a fagula. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing about it, I still say it was not those men that did what the others. Actually, politics. The same way with Hitler. Actually, all this is led up to politics. Now, I said Army and Navy both. See?
I don't know what that's got to do with anything.
No, but I mean, the thing is, I went to die for my country. See?
Yeah.
Well, you said before the other guys were runaways. Well, those guys ran away because they had certain things in their mind.
Cross, I have no gripe with you, but I don't know what your point is.
Well, my point that I was talking about Reagan. I was talking about Reagan, hey?
I know you're talking about it, but I don't understand what your point is. Your point is that... What?
Huh?
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm getting nervous.
Put words in my mouth, but I still say this is my point that I was talking about Reagan going to Germany and doing what he did. And the people call him all kind of names, and they also call him a Hitler, and they call him a dictator.
According to an ABC poll...
And I don't like that.
Yeah. I didn't know they called him a dictator.
They did. It come right on over the air.
Oh, over the air?
Yes,
the word dictator was uttered over the air?
Yes, it was on over the air.
Oh, my gosh. Wait till the FCC hears that.
No, they came up over...
The word dictator went over the air?
That's right. And if you...
In English?
If you're a leader of a country and they pick you for a president...
Holy moly, they said dictator? Can you say dictator on the air?
And he still survives and lives, and so does his men that was protecting him. They got shot, and they still live.
How many times did you have to put 30 cents in the phone?
I'm not worried about the money. It's the principle of point. You see, the thing is, money is the devil. It's how you get the money of the devil and how to use it to get what you want.
You're a philosopher, Cross.
Huh?
Thank you very much for your call, Cross.
My page that I published and distributed at CBS, the New York Times, and Interchurch Center, and Columbia University, etc. I say mankind now knows that God exists, and God has proven that he returned Jerusalem to the Jewish people in fulfillment of a plan of history for thousands of years, and that he shapes human destinies. And that proof was brought in the New York Yankees, as I show. I sent you my work before, and I brought it to the complete Congress and many others, showing how the whole year of 1984, the Yankees were shaped on the idea of the signature of God. Yahweh Echad is 1326, so that on correlating the number of the date with the number of the occurrence, so that on the 13th of May...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous moment in radio history because you have one of the most certified kooks in the history of...
They call me a kook, but everything I say is proven true, dear Mr. Grant. Every word I wrote on that page I distributed was proven true. I show you that
listen, the new Trey Carter is closing in on you right now.
A creator proves he knows and shapes human destinies by correlating the number of the occurrence with the number of the date. As Mr. Negro won his 290th game on the 29th.
You know, I tell you something. You would make a very good prisoner of the North Vietnamese because you would never get bored. You'd have yourself to keep yourself going. I can't take him. For years he's been talking about numbers. This guy never should have heard. I think his mother was frightened by the number 9. Really, it's incredible. This guy's got ninophobia.
Opportunists take advantage of that affirmative action. It gets to the point where even blacks who weren't born in this country, who come here from other countries, are under affirmative action, although they've never been discriminated here at all.
Well, listen, there are a lot of people who were born in this country who weren't discriminated at all.
Right, well, no, I understand that too.
I mean, as I tried to say before, this program was supposed to help in specific cases.
Right.
And that was 20 years ago.
Right.
What alarms me is how the politicians are so gutless.
Yeah.
And they tell me privately, that they agree with me, but then I hear their public statements, and I think to myself, you two-bit, phony, two-faced, four-flushing skunk.